most people don't enjoy interviews. Like, when was the last time you had a job interview and you looked forward to it, right? And the dog application can sometimes feel like an interview on paper. Welcome to episode 23 of the Pawdoption Guide podcast. I'm your host, Bethany Muir, and this is your one-stop shop for the knowledge and advice you need to adopt and integrate that beautiful rescue dog of your dreams. So, I just had my 3-year anniversary of my business, Pawdoption Guide. And as most of you will know, I started Pawdoption Guide when I was working as an RVT at a veterinary clinic, a small animal veterinary clinic, that is. And I'd been there for quite some time and was actually on maternity leave with my son, my first child. And I just felt so called to start this business to help people adopt pets because I was kind of naturally doing it and naturally helping people with their rescue dogs at work, or people who would ask about how to integrate their dogs or how to train them or give them some obedience tips. And yeah, it just seemed like I was called to help people in that regard. So I've been doing that for 3 years now, officially, and I'm just so happy with how far I've come, and I know I have so far to go, but this podcast is really one of my favorite things that I've created to date, and really it's only been around since November, which means it's only been like 5 months, but I'm loving it. And I'm really glad you're here. I really, really, really appreciate you being here. And anytime you share about enjoying this podcast with someone else or recommend it to someone else, like, it just means the world to me, because I'm really here for each and every one of you that's dealing with any struggles with the adoption process or with your own rescue dog. And I want to reach your ears. I want to talk to you, and I want to create this bond with you so that we can chat about it and we can make your life better. So thank you for being here, and I really appreciate any of the sharing you do surrounding this podcast, because I really can't do this without you. Over these past 3 years, I have talked to tons of people about their dog adoption experiences and just dog adopters who were on the look, who were searching for dogs, and without fail, I find that there's one part of the dog adoption process that always trips people up, and that is the dog adoption application. And you might not have expected me to have said that. I'm not sure if you would have thought, oh, it's the integration part, they don't know what's gonna come, and really that is, to some degree just something that's completely unknown. But I do think people understand more that it's just like, it's really like a roll of the dice. Sometimes you'll get certain behaviors, and sometimes it'll be a super easy, smooth transition. So, those things aren't predictable. But when it comes to almost that initial part of the process, that adoption application, it really trips people up. So why does this application do this to people? Well, I think in one part, it's because they don't expect this to be the very beginning of the process. So people are going through, they're searching, they see maybe like quite a few dogs or 3 dogs or something that might be of interest to them. And they go, okay, well, I kind of need to know a little bit more about this one. I'm not quite sure, it doesn't say whether it's good with dogs and cats, or it doesn't say whether it's good with kids, or it doesn't really talk about how high energy it is. So, I need to find out more about that. And then there might be another dog. Oh, well, it doesn't say how old they are, and that's really important to me. I want to know if they're middle-aged or if they're closer to a senior. Or, maybe it doesn't talk about where exactly the dog came from, and you'd really prefer to know some information about, well, is it an international dog, or what country did it come from, or is it a dog that's, been just surrendered locally? So there may be some things, oh goodness, my co-host here, Hudson, is here to snag the dog treats. But you're a cat. You can't have the dog kibble. So walk away. Anywho, so, they get to this point and maybe they're not like, it's not a home run, right? They read the profile. They're not like, yes, that's the dog of my dreams. Let's do this. So they're really looking for some feedback on the dog. They want to get a little bit more information before, they're putting forth too much effort. Well, really, in the dog adoption process these days, the next step is to apply. All these rescues are run by volunteers unless they're shelters. And even then, shelters have so few staff members that it's really hard for them to be taking on, numerous inquiries from people all the time about dogs, like for the littlest details. And so they really have to filter that out. And the way they do that is just by having you apply. And so, back in the day when things were a bit more low key in the dog rescue arena, you used to be able to just chat it up with a rescue volunteer and find out more details before you had to put in that effort. But unfortunately or fortunately, there's just too many people interested in rescuing dogs these days. It's not a last resort option that this makes it too difficult for rescues to just be able to answer all the inquiries. So it can be a bit jarring to think of expending, all that time and effort just to find out a little bit more, when that could just lead you down the path to not applying in the end at all, because, they're not good with other dogs and I have a dog, right? Then that's kind of worthless, right? But unfortunately, that is the way it is. So that's one of those things that really, I think is shocking to people, is that they can't just get a little bit more detail sometimes before, having to bite the bullet and just apply. Another thing is that they're overwhelmed by the difficulty of the application itself. So again, way back when rescue applications used to be one-pagers, and now, especially that they are online, they could be at shortest one page, but that's pretty unlikely. Usually they're 2 to 3 pages. They could be 4 or 5. I've even seen 10 pagers. So, not only can they be lengthy, but the questions can be hard to answer. Some rescues have things a bit more multiple choice style, and some are more like short form responses, and they may be almost all short form response questions. So there's some preparation that can be required with these applications, and you'll need to have your references available, and it could be lengthy as well as a bit challenging to fill them out. So that certainly is a bit of a barrier for people when looking to adopt. And another reason why the dog adoption application just trips people up is that most people don't enjoy interviews. Like, when was the last time you had a job interview and you looked forward to it, right? And the dog application can sometimes feel like an interview on paper. Most people are shocked at some of the more complex questions on the application, and they'll suddenly feel frustrated and offended that they're being interviewed, or that there is this barrier that's being put in place to keep them from adopting a dog, right? When that's not really it. It's all just part of the process to allow the rescue to filter people out, right? And to ensure that you're going about rescuing a dog for the right reasons. So if you have good intentions, then you're going to do just fine. And sometimes it just takes doing a few applications in order to get the hang of it, in order to understand how best to fill them out. But it does often feel like a test. And so I do find that brings out a lot of insecurities and sometimes the worst in people, because they just get a bit offended by the fact that they're being tested when they feel like dogs should be accessible to them. And, at this point just feels easier to give up and say, hey, I don't need this. I don't need to be questioned about what my house is like and what's this like. I've decided I am ready to get a dog, and that's really all that I need to know. I'm just going to go get a dog from that farm the next town over. And, I just wish more people didn't get so offended by this process. The applications, they do take a little bit of finesse, and I'm here to help you with that. I want to make it more accessible for you. So I'm here for you. It really is worthwhile, and this is just an easy point or an easy place for you to get stuck in the process. And it's really right off the hop that you're seeing this barrier to what you want to do and what you're hoping to accomplish. But you do have to persevere. And here are a few ways that you can overcome this hurdle in the dog adoption process. So one is use social media to your advantage. I did say before that the adoption application is pretty much the way to finding out more information about a dog. But that is not always the truth. There are some rescues that will be responsive to little inquiries here and there about things as to whether you should adopt a dog or not. I just find that often if you're able to find information about those dogs on social media, you're often a little bit behind the curve in order to apply for them. There'll often be a lot of interest if you're seeing a lot of comments and stuff. So they tend not to be as worthwhile for applying for, because it's just a larger pool that's applying for those dogs. But you can use social media to your advantage and try and check comments on photos of or dog profiles that have been posted on the rescue's social media, like Facebook and Instagram. See whether they have already had those questions asked that you're interested in, like how old is the dog, or more specifics about what they think the breed is, or anything that actually pertains to what you were curious about. And if you don't see your answer there, then, send them a message. Some of these places, they don't necessarily have email accessible for you to send them one, but you can send them a direct message in their Instagram or their Facebook. And on Facebook, you can often see how responsive they are to those messages. So, if it says multiple days out, right, maybe they won't even get around to messaging you. But if they say, they often respond within a few hours, well, then you might get a response. Unfortunately, with rescues, not everyone's going to know everything about every dog. That's just not the way it works with volunteers. So, that'll really just depend. But sometimes they'll say, well, let me find out and I'll get back to you. So it is worth sending a message via social media in order to see if that could help you out with that part of the frustration where you're really like, if this detail is one way or another, it's not worth applying. So, certainly give that a try. Another way to overcome being stuck when it comes to the adoption application is to prepare. So if you prepare for the application before you start, then you're going to feel much calmer when you're filling it out, less antsy, less like I'm filling out this long form on their website and I don't know if it's going to last, if I have to go away, grab this, come back, am I going to lose all my answers, right? That's just going to get you in a tizzy. So beforehand, my suggestion is to use my Are You Ready to Get a Dog freebie, and basically it's checklist that's available on my website. I'll link it in the show notes. It's basically going to help you prepare for an application. It assures you're ready to get a dog and you've thought through certain things, and that's part of the process the dog rescue is going to put you through. They're going to be seeing if you have thought about this, thought about that. And so I basically am starting you off with some of those questions so that you have them answered before you have to do it in real time on that application. So use that freebie. It'll help you get thinking about your references, the vet info you need, and a few other things. And it will probably put you at ease for your first dog adoption application that you have to submit. Another way to prepare for the application is to make sure if you have any current pets that they're up to date on vaccines and up to date on their annual exams, because this matters. If the rescue is going to check in about you down the road and those things aren't such, you don't have your pets up to date on vaccines or they're not being seen regularly, then that's a red flag for the rescue. So make sure, if you're in the search for a dog, that you're doing those things, because otherwise you probably shouldn't be in a search for a dog. Of course, another way to be very thoroughly prepared for applications is to just get my application survival kit. I'll link that in the show notes as well. But basically, it's got the advice, the knowledge, and preparation that you need to avoid that overwhelm and really deliver superior applications every time, and hopefully only once or twice. It's just a download kit that teaches you to highlight your strengths, change your mindset, and speak the rescue shelter lingo when you're filling out dog adoption applications. If you've never owned a dog before and you're not really sure how to answer a lot of the questions that come up on these applications, or you find it really time consuming or tedious when you're filling out these applications, or you're just sick of filling them out and not hearing back at all, then you really should be looking to get some help. You're obviously doing something wrong in your application that just needs a little adjustment so that you can start excelling and you can make it through to the next part of the process. Because that's the thing. If you can't get past this step, then you're never going to get to that final and ultimate goal of getting your dream rescue dog, and you do deserve that. And it's not that you're not right, it's just that maybe you're not filling out your applications very well. Maybe there's a tone coming across in your applications, or you're not giving enough information where you need to. So check out www.pawdoptionguide.com/application survival kit in order to get yours today. So in addition to preparing for the application, which is something no one thinks of doing, try to embrace this part of the process. In your mind, let's not be thinking so much like, oh, what a drag, I don't want to do this. Think more like, let's prepare so I can be good at it, because the more I do of these, the better I'm going to get, instead of I'm going to do the same answers every time and I'll probably just, float my way through this. Well, that doesn't really work for a lot of people. And I have this insider's understanding of what dog rescues want, because I work in the animal field. I know what we're thinking when dog owners or potential dog owners are talking about taking care of their dogs. Like, we're looking for compassion, and we're looking for, good intentions, and a little bit of a selflessness as well. And so we want to see that in your application. So don't be afraid to apply to more than one dog at a time. And then save your answers to your application on a Google Doc, or you can screenshot them if you can't copy your answers down, so that if you have a really good response, or you feel like you kind of getting the hang of certain questions, you can reuse those responses. If they're quality and you've really thought them through, then you can reuse them in future applications. Because no doubt there are lots of questions that are similar among dog adoption applications. It is worth embracing the process, trying to keep tabs on those answers. Once you put some effort into them, save them, and then reuse them when you find that applicable. So, keep a bit of a log and help with how tedious these applications can be, and just kind of embrace the idea that I'm just going to fill out lots of applications and I'm just going to keep doing it until I get the right fit or until I hear back. Another way to really persevere in the application process is to submit general applications. And this is something quite a few people don't know about, but certain rescues will allow you to fill out a general application. So on their website, it might say it's a general application, or they might just have an area where they say, you just fill out an application, and when they say, what dog is it for, and you're to put the name there, that's where you say general or whatever they've told you to say. There's some that call it just an application to become a pre-approved or an approved adopter. So look for those things with certain rescues just by checking out their website, checking out their application process, seeing if they have that option. And if they do, that's great. Do that for any local rescues or rescues within your radius, and you'll find that then they're kind of keeping their eyes open, and they all work differently this way, but some of them will outright have you in a file somewhere, and they know to check those files when they get new dogs in to see if there's compatibility, and then they reach out to you. And some places will say, okay, well, we'll keep you in our files, and it just means you don't have to reapply when there's a new dog. You just send us an email, and then we say, oh yeah, sure, we'll check your application against this dog. So sometimes it's just that it saves you needing to do the last minute application, which can be kind of, again, time consuming and a bit stressful because you're down to the wire. So if you're able to do it ahead of time, then that can be really beneficial as well. The only downside to that can be that sometimes you get lost in their system. So you might think they're watching for you, or maybe they're not. So, you might be left wondering, are they looking for me? So you do still kind of have to be on top of things. But the other downside could be that you can't necessarily tailor your application to the dog you're applying for. What is really compatible about you and that dog, because you're just putting in a general application. So sometimes it's not as ideal in that regard. You can't sell yourself as well. But, if they've considered you an approved adopter, then they know that you're a quality dog owner, and they will be looking at you. So that's a great note that some people just have no idea about. So you have to do a little bit of research to find those rescues that do that, but it's worthwhile and will save you some time in the long run. Lastly, get all the help you could need within the Pawdoption Guide membership experience. So that is the membership that I host in order to help dog adopters with any struggles they're having with adopting a dog. So that struggle could be, searching for a dog. It could be filling out applications. It could be every part of the adoption process, or it could be literally integrating their dog once they've gotten them. So, in the Pawdoption Guide membership experience, not only do you get the application survival kit that I was talking about earlier, which is half the price, by the way, for a monthly membership, but you also get my Southern Ontario dog rescue spreadsheet, which will help you immensely in finding compatible rescue dogs and in reducing how many applications you're going to have to fill out, because, you're finding dogs before all the rest of the public's finding dogs. So that's super helpful. And on top of this, there's just so many opportunities to ask questions during biweekly Q&A calls and within the private community that we have, along with a host of other great dog adoption and integration resources that I have for you. So if you're having any struggles in adopting a dog, you can find the solutions you need inside the Pawdoption Guide membership experience. If you've been searching for that perfect rescue dog, I really hope this helped you kind of understand the process a bit better today and maybe feel a little less attacked by the adoption application. I know it is just kind of jarring for a lot of people, and I think there's just a lot of expectations out there about getting a rescue dog, and that there should be some ease to it because, it's not a purebred dog. But in the end, dog rescues are looking out for the dog's best interest, and that's exactly what they're trying to decipher with the application. So there's so many reasons they've become more complex and are a bit more lengthy, but it is all worthwhile. And I think those 5 tips I gave you today are a great start. So if you have any more questions about this part of the process and how it's tripping you up, then please just get in touch with me on Instagram or Facebook. I'd love to chat with you about it. I honestly just know that there's this art form to filling out adoption applications, and I want you to be in on it. So if you enjoyed this episode, take a moment, leave a review for me on your favorite podcast platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or just pass along some feedback by taking a screenshot and posting it on your Instagram or Facebook story. I love to hear what you're thinking about episodes and, what your favorite episodes are. Don't forget to subscribe or follow this podcast if you want to get notified when new episodes drop. And thank you for listening. Take care.